Year 2 book, exercise 2D, and this is question 10 about a function f of x. It's a quadratic, but we're interested in the bit of the function where x is a real number less than 0. So the domain is the left-hand side of the y-axis. Okay, so we're not interested in anything to the right of the y-axis. So it makes this question slightly unusual. So we've got to find the inverse function of x. Well, we should know that that is a reflection of this in the line y equals x. I'll draw the line y equals x on here, but you can see that I've already sketched where the reflection would be. Okay, so there's the line y equals x, and you can see that the blue graph is a reflection of the original. Okay, so we know roughly what it looks like. Now, there's a couple of things that we need to explain on the way, so let me make a start on this now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to set y equal to f of x, so y is 2x squared minus 3. Rearrange that. Well, it's just a question of adding 3 and dividing by 2. Okay, and divide by 2, and that will give me x squared. Okay, and then I just need the square root. But this is where we have to start thinking now about which part of the square root we're interested in, because there's a negative part and a positive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, first of all, let me just finish this off and say that x therefore equals the square root of that. Okay, so it's the square root of y plus 3 over 2. Okay, so that's straightforward enough. And then I have to just write that in terms of x. So f to the minus 1 of x, that's the inverse function, is defined as, I'm just going to write for the moment, the square root of x plus 3 over 2. Okay. And now we're going to consider whether we want the positive or negative part of it. Well, if you look at the sketch graph I've already done, you can see that the reflected part here, which was the original part was the negative part to the left of the y-axis, that has become the negative part of this. You see, if we normally plotted the graph of y equals the square root of x plus 3 over 2, we would have been plotting this bit above the x-axis. Okay, so we want the negative of this. So the inverse function is the negative part of this. All right, and that's quite significant here. All right, so having established that, we now need to state its domain. Well, its domain, which you should always do, by the way, even if the question hasn't asked you for it, the domain is that the values of x have to be greater than negative 3, because this blue curve never goes to the left of negative 3. So x would be a member of the real numbers. Okay, that should be a sort of an R like that, and also that x is greater than negative 3. Okay, so that's the fully defined inverse function. Now for part B, okay, you've got to find the value of a, or the values of a, for which f of a equals f to the minus 1 of a. Now you could of course set the functions f and f to the minus 1 equal to each other and solve it, and you would end up with a quartic equation, because when you squared both sides to get rid of the square root, you'd be having an x to the 4, and you'll end up with more solutions than you need. But the point is, there's a lot easier way of doing it, because you see at this point here on the graph, all three lines converge. The inverse function, the original function, and the line y equals x. So in fact, all you need to solve is this. that 2a squared minus 3, okay, 2a squared minus 3 equals a. Yes, because that is the line y equals x, so the x and y coordinates are the same, and they all converge at this same point. So if you solve this equation, you'll get 2a squared, okay, minus a minus 3 equals 0. You will then factorize that, and hopefully notice that that will factorize like this. There's going to be a 3 in there. There's going to be an a and a plus 1 in there, and that's going to be a minus 3, and that's going to give me two values of a. So it's going to give me a equals 3 over 2, or a equals -1. Well, you can see from the graph I've drawn, which of course you could have done on your graphics calculator, that I would be interested in -1, that should be a equals -1. Okay, and that's the solution I'm interested in, because this one is off the range. It's over here somewhere, and it's over the positive part of this graph, which we're not interested in. So maybe we just need to indicate that that one is not needed, and the correct answer is the only value of a is -1. Okay.